The Child timeline has some of the very best games in the Zelda series, including Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess. The Zelda team are likely working on the next Zelda game right now, and one of my hopes is that they're working on a new game that could sit on the Child timeline. Well, today I want to focus on this theme, the Child timeline to date, and what a new Child timeline game could be in the Legend of Zelda series. Well, if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button down below for even more Zelda content here on Triforce Times, and stick around to the end of the video to get an exclusive offer for channel members. Well, before I speculate about future games, I want to start off with going through a quick reminder of the Child timeline and why it is one of the best timelines in the game with some of the best entries. Okay, first of all, we have the Child era. So at the end of Ocarina of Time, after defeating Ganondorf, Zelda sends Link back in time, creating one of the three different timelines, and this is the start of the Child era. Once Link arrives in his own time, he warns the young Zelda about Ganondorf. Zelda then gives Link the Ocarina of Time and sends him far away from Ganondorf, so the Sacred Realm is never opened. This leads directly into the events of Majora's Mask. Link then sets off on a new adventure, this time a very personal one, looking for his fairy friend Navi. Unfortunately, Link finds more than he bargained for in the Skull Kid. He attacks Link, steals the ocarina, jumps into a portal, and then Link follows the Skull Kid to Termina. The Skull Kid has possession of Majora's Mask and is causing the moon to fall towards Termina. Link then meets the Happy Mask salesman and then is given 3 days to stop the tragedy. Ultimately, Link succeeds, he stops the moon, faces off against Majora and saves the day. Well, Link then leaves Termina, but little is known as to what happened next. Zelda, on the other hand, now knows about Ganondorf's intentions, and he is sentenced to death by the ancient sages in the Arbiter's grounds. Well, Ganondorf breaks free and fights against the sages, murdering one of them, so then these sages banish Ganondorf to the Twilight Realm and are told by the gods to protect the mirror that leads to it. Well, that brings us to the Twilight era. So in the Twilight Realm, Ganondorf gives Zant magic abilities, and then Ganondorf sets about merging the Light and the Twilight worlds into the Dark World, where Ganondorf is going to reign. In Twilight Princess, Link meets Midna, who's been transformed by Zant. Link and Midna then use the mirror to enter the Twilight Realm and defeat Zant, and Zant reveals that Ganondorf is behind all of this trouble and has been reborn in Hyrule. Link and Midna then head back to Hyrule to defeat Ganondorf, and then Midna returns to the Twilight Realm, breaks the mirror, making sure the realms will stay separate forevermore. This then leads us to the Shadow era. So much time passes in Hyrule before Ganon, a reincarnated Ganondorf, steals the trident from the ancient pyramid and the dark mirror from the Temple of Darkness. Ganon then plans to release Vati from his seal in the Four Sword and creates a Shadow Link to help him. Shadow Link then tricks Link into pulling the Four Sword, which then releases Vati, also making 4 copies of Link. And ultimately, the 4 Links kill Vati and seal Ganon inside the Four Sword. But this video is brought to you by Triforce Times Backstage. This is available through Patron or YouTube membership, and you're going to get exclusive benefits, plus you'll be able to go above and beyond to support Triforce Times. Free content is core to Triforce Times, and you can continue to enjoy these videos that you know and love. However, if you want to enjoy the benefits like early access, our community Discord, shoutouts in the credits of videos, content polls and exclusive videos, then select the tier that is right for you and join Triforce Times Backstage today. So help me make Triforce Times be even bigger and better, plus you're going to get some added benefits for a small fee every month. Well, thank you for listening, and now it's time to go back to the video. Well, that is a very brief recap of the Child timeline so far, but there's one thing that sticks out to me, and that is the time period between Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess, and that is where I think the next Zelda game should be set. With that in mind, what are some of the possible story beats for the next Zelda game set in the child timeline between Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess? Let's dive into that next. Well, exploring just how the Hero of Time became Hero Shade in Twilight Princess is the perfect topic for a future Zelda game, even though it would likely end in tragedy. So after Majora's Mask, child Link returns to Hyrule, and then little is known about Link until the events of Twilight Princess many years later. In Twilight Princess, a new incarnation of Link has been born to save Hyrule. However, this Link is very inexperienced and seeks the help from a mysterious swordsman. This is Hero Shade and is the ghost of Link from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, otherwise known as the Hero of Time. After the events of Majora's Mask, Link returned from Termina and he lived his life in Hyrule, and then later on in life he finally died. Full of regret, the Hero Shade wasn't able to pass down into the afterlife and lingered until he could pass down his skills to a new hero. Well, the story of how the Hero of Time became Hero Shade sounds like a very sad story indeed. It would be good to revisit the Hero of Time when he's returned from Termina back to Hyrule. Yes, Link could die at the end of this story, but it'd be really good to revisit that version of Link and round out the trilogy of the Hero of Time. Similar to the Star Wars movie Rogue One, we all knew the ending before we saw the movie, but it was the journey of the characters along the way. And I think this could really work well for the final piece of the puzzle of the trilogy of the Hero of Time. But there is a theory that in the child timeline there was a war between the Gerudo and the Hylians. This could provide a very interesting backdrop for a new Zelda game. So according to Hyrule Historia, Hero Shade is a direct ancestor of the Hero of Twilight. That means the Hero of Time could have had a child before he died, which could mean an interesting romantic twist in the story for Link. Hero Shade is also missing an eye, which could be another story beat in a Majora's Mask sequel. So if there was a Gerudo War, the Hero of Time could take part, perhaps lead a battalion of Hylians, and you could have some really great battles against Gerudo enemies, ultimately leading to Link losing an eye. It would be fascinating to see the child Hero of Time grow up to become an adult and a famed warrior in a war against the Gerudo. Well, the Hero of Time is one of the most iconic versions of Link in the whole Legend of Zelda series, perhaps only surpassed by the recent Breath of the Wild version of Link, and it would be great to explore the final part of this trilogy. It would also be really good for the Zelda team to write that final chapter, and perhaps the Hero of Time's death wasn't so tragic after all. Well, let me know in the comments what you think about the child timeline. What would you want to see from a sequel to Majora's Mask or a prequel to Twilight Princess? I really think it's an interesting time period on the Zelda timeline, and I would love to hear what you think. Well, that is it for this video today, looking at the next Zelda game should be on the child timeline, and thank you so much for watching or for listening. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below for even more Zelda content here on Triforce Times. Well, thanks again, and I'll see you very soon.